Hello viewers and welcome back to the CarCave for a car that I'm super excited about because you see, I spent a great deal of my early adult life in the passenger seat of my best friend's Acura Integra DC2. His car was anything but standard. It was slammed to the ground, wheels were cambered out, it had a JDM front end conversion and a nicely eroded away oil pan. But it was still the coolest car in the world to me, and we would drive around going to different car shows and I learned a bunch about photography. It made me have an irrational love for the Integra name. So much so that when he inevitably had to sell that car, I kept the rear view mirror, which was stickered up to remind me that objects in mirror are losing, and of course on the back, that stance will make her dance, which is 100% true. Now the DC2 was replaced by the RSX, and in 2006, the Integra name was taken out of the market completely. But I'm very pleased to say that for 2023, Acura has brought it back with this, the 2023 Acura Integra. This one has the A-Spec with tech package and it's finished in this beautiful Apex blue pearl paint, but more on that later because in today's video, I'm gonna take you through the exterior design, interior design, talk about the specs, and then we'll take it out for a real quick first impressions road test to see what the new Integra is like to drive. We'll start by talking about the exterior design on the Integra, which is a great place to start because I think the car looks very good. The front end of the car looks very similar to a TLX to me. Not a bad thing because that's a very good looking car as well. You have standard LED headlights with the LED daytime running lights, but the LED fog lights only come on the A-Spec and higher package. All of the grills on this car are functional. You have this beautiful sunburst design for the main grille. You get that on a lot of Acuras nowadays, and I think they look fantastic. But again, I'm just really happy that it's all functional. There's no fake vents. You even have little slots on the sides of the bumper here with little gills in there, so as air flows through, pushes down on those gills, gives you a little bit of added downforce. And then there's also these very characteristic lines in the hood as well. One thing I love about this car is they've actually stamped in the Integra name on the front bumper so that anybody that sees the car from the front knows exactly what you're driving. Moving on to the side profile of the Integra, you've got a little A-Spec badge there if you get the A-Spec. And you'll notice here that the rear part of the car kind of slopes down into a hatchback, and that's because it's a hatchback. Now, that shouldn't come as any surprise because the Integra platform is all based on the hatchback variant of the current generation of the Civic, but where the Civic comes with 16-inch wheels as standard, the Integra has 17s. The A-Spec package starts up with 18-inch wheels, and you can option any trim with 19-inch wheels. Moving finally to the rear end of the Integra, and this is where I think that this car starts to stand out the most from the rest of the cars in Acura's lineup, probably because of these rear taillights. I just think that they look really good. There's you got the A-Spec badge right there, and you have this contrasting rear lip spoiler. Now, onto the subject of the paint, I wanted to talk through the fact that Acura really only offers one color for free for the new Integra, and that's Lunar Silver Metallic. Every other color comes at an extra cost. It is the same price for any other color, but they are an extra cost, and this, the Apex Blue Pearl, is only offered for the A-Spec package or higher. You can't get this color on the standard car. You have two exhaust pipes, and just like on the front, you have the Integra badge stamped into the rear bumper, so there is no debadging on this car. No, sir. Also, this being based on the Civic, you would expect it to be pretty much the same size, but you'd be kind of wrong because the Integra is 1.8 inches longer than the Civic, as well as 1.1 inches wider. As far as weight is concerned, there is a difference in weight between the different trims of the Integra, but it's really negligible. This car is the A-Spec with the tech package and CVT transmission, so it is the heaviest of the bunch, and it weighs in at 3,150 pounds. But again, the difference between them is not something I would be worried about. Okay, now onto the interior of the Integra, and there's quite a lot to talk about on this car, so I'm going to try to break it out in a way that makes sense. Now, if you've been inside of the new Civic, it's going to be very familiar in here. There are a couple of changes. That little grille design goes across the entire dashboard in the Civic, and they've cut it off by the passenger seat in this car, and they've rearranged a couple of things. But overall, it's very similar, and that's a good thing because I love the interior on the new Civic. There are some notable differences if you opt in for the tech package, so let me go through some of those, starting with the seats. The standard car and the A-Spec package have 8-way adjustable seats for the driver, and they're manual adjustable seats for the passenger, and they're also leatherette. With the tech package, you get this nice micro suede center insert with the leatherette on the side. You get 12-way adjustable seats for the driver, as well as a nice little electronically controlled lumbar support, and that's great if you have a back. My back! You have 4-way adjustable seats for the passenger, but interestingly, even though you get micro suede in the front, it's still only leatherette for the back. You have dual zone climate control, very important for me, and all of the climate control settings are actual physical buttons and knobs, which is great. No haptic feedback there, and you've got your heated seats as well. Wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. For the standard car and A-Spec, they are wired. Also wireless charging pad that you don't get on the other cars, and an individual driving mode so you can customize different parameters about the car, like your engine, steering, suspension, idle, stop, start, as well as the gauge colors. So you can change them between sport, normal, and comfort, and that will change the colors. The infotainment screen is 9 inches instead of 7 inches, and you have a 5.3-inch heads-up display that you don't get on any of the other trims either. You do have an ELS Studio 3D sound system, which is improved over the other trims. Although all of the trims have keyless entry, with the tech package, you can actually go into the infotainment screen and change how that keyless entry will work. It's really hard to talk about technology in modern cars because most modern cars have all of the technology that you could ever want, but that being said, this car is great. One noteworthy kind of gimmicky feature about the Integra that I really like is in your center gauge cluster, you've got a little Integra icon, and that changes as you change things about the car. So if I push the brake pedal, the brake lights will turn on that little icon. If I turn on the headlights, even if I put on my right and left indicators, those indicators will turn on as well. And that's just, I mean, it doesn't really serve a purpose and it's kind of useless, but it's just such a cool thing to have. On to the specs. Now, the Integra takes its engine from the current generation of the Honda Civic Si. It's a 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with VTEC that makes 200 brake horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. Drive goes exclusively to the front wheels, and 0 to 60 is done with depending on the transmission you choose. Where the Si has only a 6-speed manual, the Integra also has a CVT transmission. Although I should note that the 6-speed manual is only offered if you get the A-Spec with the tech package. So 0 to 60 with the CVT is 7.6 seconds, and with the manual, it's 7.7 seconds. But the Civic Si is only the sedan. The Integra is based on the Civic Hatch platform. So really look at the Integra as a Civic Si hatchback that you can get with the CVT or a manual. You kind of have that option, and it's got a bit more luxury as well. As far as pricing is concerned, the base Integra is $31,300. And if you go up to the A-Spec with the tech package, it's an additional $5,000 for $36,300. But look at it this way. If you wanted to get a Civic with all of the stuff that you get in an Integra, you really need to look at the Civic Hatchback Sport Touring. That has a starting MSRP of $31,250, which is only $50 less than the base Integra. So when you look at it that way, getting the base Integra, you're really just getting a more luxurious, I think more unique, I also think better looking Civic fully loaded touring hatchback car thing. That's pretty cool. But what I want to do right now is I want to take this out for a real quick first impressions road test. Okay, so first impressions of the new Integra. Now, I never got to drive my buddy's DC2 Integra, so I really don't have a basis to compare this to any of the older generations, but I have driven the current generation of the Civic, the base model with the 158 horsepower base engine. This obviously has the SI engine, so it's going to be faster than that, but as far as the overall driving experience of this car, it feels very similar to the Civic. It just feels a little bit nicer. Right now, I have it in comfort mode, so I'm going to put it in sport mode and see what that really changes about the car. So throttle response, already better, quite a lot better, and it holds the shifts much higher. Now, this is a CVT transmission, so it's not actually shifting, you know, it's a single gear transmission, but it gives the sensation of shifting, really. And you do have paddle shifters, so we're gonna see what those are like. The shifts are actually really quite fast. It's very responsive, just in regular comfort mode now, and I mean, it feels like just a nice daily driver. There's not really a whole lot of feedback that I can give on what the car is like to drive every day because I don't drive it every day, but just on this normal road at normal speeds, the seats are very comfortable. I fit, I'm 6'2", and I have no problem whatsoever fitting into this car. The lumbar support on this package is actually really comfortable and really helpful. And I like the suede seats, especially here in California. Having leather seats on a hot summer's day is not the most enjoyable thing in the world, and these suede seats are a bit cooler, I think. I do appreciate that the different driving modes do actually change the characteristics of the car, because with really expensive cars, luxury cars, performance cars, you really expect a drastic difference in your driving modes. And it's reasonable to be disappointed if all of them kind of feel the same. But with normal everyday cars, I feel like there's this stigma that you should almost expect that all the driving modes are gonna feel relatively similar, and in this car they don't. I mean, I'm driving it right now in comfort mode, and if I put it into normal mode, it feels just the tiniest bit more ready to go, I guess. But then when you put it in sport mode, it drives very differently, and you almost feel like the suspension stiffens up a little bit. With the tech package, you have the optional active dampers, which is something you can get on a Civic Si, and it changes the stiffness of the suspension, and that's impressive. That's a cool thing to have on what is really an entry-level car. The other thing, which really shouldn't come as a surprise, being that this car is based on a Honda, is everything feels like it was designed and built to last a really long time. And it's gonna last a really long time and be a little bit more luxurious as well. That's a great quality to have in a car. And I know I'm starting to sound like I'm being a little bit biased about this car, and that's because I'm being a little bit biased about this car. I love the Integra and I love the Civic. I have a Honda Civic, but I don't like them because I'm obsessed with Honda for whatever reason. I like them because they make a really good product. And with this Integra, I think there was a lot of hype around it because it's an Integra and the Integra name was coming back, and everybody was thinking, oh, it's gonna be this crazy cool sports car that Acura is making, but that's not what the Integra ever was. And I think that misconception comes from the fact that within the Integra community, there's so much modifying cars and making them faster and slamming them to the ground and doing all of this stuff. It changed the reputation of the Integra to be more of like a sporty car. But even when the Integra was originally released, it was always just a slightly nicer Civic, and it's no different now. This is just a nicer, more luxurious, better, well-optioned Civic. And there's nothing wrong with that, because the Civic in itself is a great car, and with this, Acura is just checking all of the options off for you. And with the A-Spec tech package, there's so much stuff in this car you can never really want for more. If you want something that's more performance oriented, wait for the Type S, which as soon as those hit the showroom floors, hopefully we'll do a video of one of those, but that car is going to be insane. But as far as the standard Integra, if you go into it with the expectation that it is a Civic but nicer, you're not going to be disappointed. And beyond being disappointed, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, because that's what I am. I went into this car with that in my mind, and I'm very happy with it. I really like this car, and I think it's worth the money, because to get everything that this car has, you're going to spend very close to the same money in a Honda. Everything in this car is also very easy to use, and although it does have a bunch of technology, it's not overwhelming, and when I'm driving, I don't feel like there's a lot of stuff distracting me. With some of the other cars that I've reviewed on the channel, they have so much tech, and everything is so unconventional in the way that you control it, that especially for somebody that's getting in the car for the first time, it can be a little bit intimidating and very distracting when you're driving. I don't really get that issue with the Integra. I feel like I'm driving a very familiar car, something that I can be very comfortable in, coming from a car that has a lot less technology. This gives you everything that you really need in a modern car without making it overcomplicated. It makes it very functional, very easy to digest, and there's something to be said about that, because overcomplicating something has its negatives, and the Integra just doesn't do that. That's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to Weir Canyon Acura for loaning me this Integra. Now, I will leave all of the regular links in the description below to their website, their social media, as well as the listing for this car. If you are interested, go ahead and check them out. Other than that, leave me a comment below with what you think of the new Integra. And also, I'm gonna post a question to the top of the comment section. Do you think it's better to go for a base Integra or a fully loaded Civic Touring hatchback? It's got to be the hatchback. So go on to both of those websites. I'll link them down below. Make your decision and let us know in the comments below. Also, leave me a like, hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I make a post. I try to post at least once a week, and subscribe to show your support for the channel. But until the next video, take care.